consider that feat like just as great as the Panama Canal, if not greater, because that was like open ocean bridge that they had created back then. So really an incredible story with that guy, but it would be so cool if you could do a video or something. If I had the time, if I wasn't working my ass off on the normal job and everything else I got going and floods and all that stuff, I'd love to do it myself. But the Flagler Museum, and then cut back up here again and stop along Ormond where his other hotel was, hit the casements, do the historic scenic loop, and then end up back in St. Augustine at Flagler College. Man, that would be just an awesome, you know, people in Florida would dig it. I don't know if the rest of the country would even care, but I dig it. A lot of history, a lot of ghosts too with there, you know, especially with the St. Augustine part of it. But I figured anything with Flagler's got to have some ghosts.
Right, yes.
Hey, Austin, so you just do ghosts, you don't do UFOs, cryptids, demons, because a lot of our cases are demons, and we do a lot of UFOs, and we've done cryptids like Bigfoot and stuff like that. Do you have people who contact you who need help, and they might say, I have a demon in my house? What do you do in a situation like that?
So, in all of like ISpook existence since last year we started, we only had one residential, which was close to Orlando. She'd been trying to find somebody, and she contacted a guy named David Sloan. David Sloan contacted a guy that used to be on my team, so he just passed it on to me. And so we organized a residential. She believed that it was a demon, that everything was being thrown at her. She was reporting scratches. She was reporting the TVs cutting on. And then at some point during the process, she was saying that she believed the TV was talking to her. So we went there. We looked around, we did a little interview with her, and we decided to look into it. So we had her leave the house at first, and nothing really happened when she left. Nothing really crazy happened, not much activity at all. She came back, the activity got a little bit more going, a little bit more active. I found out that I believe that it was some type of attachment. I have no idea what attachment it was, but I directed her to talk to someone from the church to get clean and use sage and just basically keep cleaning herself and all that, and tell her that don't bother her, stand her ground, and don't let anything try to take over and affect you.
That's good. At least you sent it over to the church. We do our own cleansing. We do a Roman Catholic house blessing using holy water and a crucifix. We also do full submersion baptisms, which is a basic form of exorcism. So if a person has an attachment, the attachment is going to leave. One of the things I want to ask you is, what do you think about orbs? I mean, orbs could be almost anything: dust, wind, light refractions, dewdrops, whatever. But do any of your investigators or yourself think that orbs are paranormal?
Half and half on the team. I'm very hard to I look at stuff, and then I look at how the camera is, how the camera's set up, how everything is, and like night vision and all that, and I look at it and I just make sure if stuff flying around and all that, I keep aware of that. If something look different and weird, like coming at like a weird angle or something floating around and then coming straight back down, I look into it further, because that to me will raise flags to me to look into it. But usually if something is very clear and I don't see no dust around, like a hotel I went to, I saw something that just went around in a circle and it went down, and then something fell off the side of the bed. I looked into that, and I believe that was something, because it looked weird when I keep replaying it. So I looked at it for a minute or two straight to make sure, because I don't want to put something out there and then somebody else is going to be like, oh no, that's this and that. So I'll make sure to look at it, which I know at the end of the day, there's people just going to be calling you out saying it's this because they're non-believers or they think you're faking. That's part of the paranormal side everyone has to deal with.
Hey, Austin, let me tell you a real fast little story.
Yeah.
And most of my investigators have already heard the story about 100 times. But anyway, this is one of the things we do with orbs. Okay. We had a situation where we investigated this house, and the entity named Emily was draining the energy from the occupants. So one of my investigators says, Paul, I'm really tired. I don't know what's going on. I feel fatigued. I feel like something's sucking out my energy. I said, I wonder if Emily, the ghost, is doing that to you. I said, sit down. And I said, Emily, if you're listening to me, kiss him on the lips. With 3 cameras, we snap a photo, and there's an orb on his mouth. That showed intelligent movement. And then I said, okay, Emily, listen to me again. I said, if you really love this guy, I go, sit on his lap. We snap a photo, only with 1 camera this time, and there's an orb hovering over his lap. That showed intelligent movement. So now, when I do investigations, I'll put my hand on the wall. I say, if there's a ghost here, a ghost that's actually listening to me, please appear by my hand. And there'll sometimes will be, if the house is haunted, an orb on my hand. And so that's what we go for, intelligent movement on orbs. And it seems to work. And then, I gotta tell you this one. Over in Del Paso Heights, there was this one house that we did an investigation, and I took a picture in the backyard, and I got these 2 designer orbs. That's the orbs with all the little intricate type designs on them. And I enhanced them, and it looked like dog faces. I called one of my investigators. I said, what is it you see here? She goes, those are dog faces. I said, yeah. So I went back to the occupant. I said, hey, I said, what is it you got back there? And she goes, I got orange trees. I said, no, besides that. She goes, well, I got 2 dogs buried back there. I go, okay. Take a look at these photos. She looks at the photos, and she starts crying. I go, why are you crying? She goes, those are my 2 dogs. Something like that I can deem as paranormal. So from what you're describing, it seems like some orbs that you've seen seem like they have intelligent movement, but you got to kind of prove it with a photo or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Austin, when Paul was saying that, because he's got like so much. I was thinking about you as far as how practical you were talking about when you see something. And with the paranormal, people could hear a creak, they could see a shadow, and they're like, but you really sound to me like, just like any of us would be real investigators, where you think, it really has to be something you can keep qualifying, at least grab a hold with some kind of data, even though that doesn't mean anything, but when you, have you had anything where just, that moment where it said, wow, this is really, questionable, I'm not lying to myself, nobody was here, it's not, because you were honest about the mistake you made with the ice. I thought that was real insightful. The other thing I wanted to say to you real quickly about the demon thing, next time if you're in there, really, depending on, some people are religious, some people aren't, and I find that you can talk about the Sumerian tablets, you can talk about the Bible, you can talk about all that, but then there was cats living like 200,000 years before that, man. You think they didn't have any kind of connection? They were doing like trance dances. They were doing shit way advanced, So, people can say what they want, but we got that divine spark, I think, that you could quench any demon if you wanted. But if you're like of mind to call out, who that demon is, or offer some food or something, say, hey, look, I'm nourishing you. Can you take this evil away? Like, there's all kind of spells and rituals they have. Like, we know that. Yeah. But, so, about how you redirect them, that's cool. But then I was going to say, so how do you feel about that? And then, like I said, what's your real poignant moment where you felt like, damn, this shit is real?
Oh, man. Well, this goes back in North Carolina. This is where other investigators said that there was a demon there at I forgot. It was an abandoned nursing home. I couldn't get the home, but it's called Alexiston Nursing Home. It got burned down several times, and they finally decided to demolish it. And the pink room, or pink bathroom, is there's a guy that snatched a little girl, raped her, killed her, and then killed himself. And then what I heard from multiple stories that he's still doing that in the afterlife. And that he's a very bad person that if you call him out, provoke him, or try to trigger him, he'll come after you and you feel like a stab in your stomach. So I like to test theories. So if someone said and other investigators reported that, I'm gonna follow up and try to do what they do. So I started trying to provoke it a little bit because that's the only thing that really was interesting there. So I started to start provoking it. I wasn't disrespecting it, but I was like,
Yeah.
that's nasty what you did. That's not cool. If you're doing that in the afterlife, you need to like let her go, let her roam, let her go to safety, let her just do it. I think he got mad at that, and because the girl came in and says help me, and it says please on the SB7. So I didn't really hear that because at that time you hear all that static from the SB7, so you're just like, okay, it says something, but I'm not sure. So when I was slowing it down, it said help me, and then it said please. So when I heard that,